It's been nearly 2 years since I last went on an overseas car launch, but now we're back here at Frankfurt Airport with something rather special. A pretty little red Corvette. Now, I haven't actually driven a Corvette since I flew out to the south of France to test the Z06 version of the C6 series. Went up to the 8 series here with this new car, and the Corvette's been going for over 60 years. But I can still remember the first time I drove out of the airport and headed to the hills below the Alps. I pulled back that chunky gear lever, floored the throttle, had this wonderful guttural V8 noise from the engine in front, and I had a smile on my face instantly. It was a brilliant, brutal driver's car. But now, of course, we've moved on. Back then, the European cars all had more and more computerized flappy paddles. The manual gearboxes were disappearing. So I loved that Corvette. But now we're bang up to date. We've now got a Corvette for the first time ever with a mid-engine. It's the first time ever, no manual gearbox options. And a very gentle sounding V8 in the back. But of course, there is one way I can change that, because there's a Z button or a Z button, and I preset what I like in a car. I press the Z button, and now if I drop a gear or two, it gets a lot better sounding. Now I've got a smile on my face. Whoa. In actual fact, the C7 version that came out in 2014 was very nearly a mid-engine car, because by then the marketing department had heard rumours that they were calling the Corvette the old man's toy, because apparently 46% of sales went to people over 55 years of age, as opposed to 30% of Porsche 911s and 26% for the Audi R8. So it's been coming for a while, and now the Corvette is in the modern world. But is that a good thing? Who knows? We're about to find out. Well, cruising down the Autobahn at 100 miles an hour, back into tour mode, the basic settings, it's really quite quiet, quite relaxing, very comfortable, very nice. But we need to get off the Autobahn. We really do need to get off the Autobahn. Right, now we're finally off the Autobahn and onto some lovely looking twisty roads. It's time to find out how much sting this new Stingray has in its tail. And of course, the other reason I'm a big fan of Corvettes, not just because of that experience in the Z06, is because they're a wonderful competition company. They've been racing at Le Mans ever since Corvettes were born. In the 50s, they've been racing Corvettes, but it was 1998 they set up their factory team to take on the global GT world dominated by Ferraris and Porsches and Aston Martins. And they created their C5R, and ever since then they've just been beating up the world, these wonderful yellow beasts, the factory cars. They've won at Le Mans, their class, 8 times. They won at the Daytona 24 Hours, they won the Sebring 12 Hours, they won the American IMSA Championship so many times. A British driver, Oliver Gavin, won Le Mans 5 times, made his career. So I've followed the Corvettes. I've loved the fact they've toured the world, beating up the opposition. And they're now doing the same in this new mid-engine version. But now we can get going. It's still all a bit quiet, so now I can go to these modes they've got. So many cars now are all about modes, so I get my little twirly button here, turn the other way. There's my mode, there's the base, there's weather mode, which is obviously the icy horrible one. And then you can have tour mode, which is the normal road mode, and then you can have my mode when you can set all sorts of different settings. Then you can have track mode, and you can adjust all the steering weights, the suspension, the back brake feel, the engine sound. Anyway, I've preset all these because you can do your own one to the Z button. So I press my Z button now, and all the Z stuff comes alive, and everything gets more noisy, and the gearbox gets more sharp, and I've got the brake feel now on maximum, so it's a real solid pedal. The brakes are feeling good, the power's coming in, and on a dry road I can actually go even further than Z mode. So I press another couple of times, can fiddle around a bit, and eventually we get race mode. The traction control's off, everything's off, and little heads-up display that comes with this car. It's so good, nice little neat colourful one. I've got all my gears and speed, and now this just comes alive. Still not the same real noise that the old front engine beasts had, but a nice, powerful, urging noise. 483 horsepower from the 6.2 litre small block, as they call it. And probably that's the most the standard Corvette has ever had. Obviously the Z versions had more. But this is so confidence inspiring on these roads. It's just a joy. Well, there is of course one elephant in the room, which I know my regular viewers will know I'm going to say next, and probably should have said as soon as I got into the car, because it's got a stupid shaped steering wheel. One of the most horrible things I've ever seen. Reminds me of the Allegro. And I know this doesn't matter most of the time when you don't need more lock than the one steering grip that you have. But it's when you come to tight roundabouts and parking, and when your hand goes over the corner of the wheel, it's just not right. Okay, I'm not going to say another thing about it. It's just me. I know it's just me. Oh, corners are getting tighter. Turn, squeezing the power. And of course there's great visibility now. You're sitting, about a couple of feet further forward, and you've not got that long bonnet in front. You've got an amazing view of the road in front. You see little red wings each side, like aiming points to get into the apex. Listen to that. Doesn't change down quite as quick as I wanted there, but it doesn't have the same wild excitement of that Z06 had, I have to say. Z06 between you and me. But it's a very enjoyable drive. A lot safer, I've no doubt. But I can sometimes want that little bit of it doesn't have it. Never mind. The surprising thing though, even in this Z mode, it takes the little bumps on this roughish road amazingly smoothly. And that's because this car has the optional Magno Ride, or is it Magna Ride? Anyway, that clever suspension, clever shock absorbers, that just smooths out the bumps. It really is a beautifully balanced and poised chassis. See, they're cornering flat, they're hitting bumps without any jar. Really comfortable ride, even in race mode. Paddles a nice feel, just in the way you want them. Looking well ahead. Amazingly, in America, you can pick up the entry-level model of these for £45,000. In the UK, the entry level is about £74,000, but it comes packed with a lot of options that they don't have on the entry level in America. It's got this Z51 package, which gives you a little bit more power. It's got a performance exhaust. It's got bigger Brembo brakes and a few other bits and bobs. And of course, there's a convertible version as well. That costs about £5,000 more. Entry level about £79,000. But even with this coupe, you can take this centre panel out, so you can still have fresh air motoring, even in the coupe version. Not quite as good as convertible, which the whole top goes back in about 15 seconds at 30 miles an hour, the usual tricks. But as you might know, again from me, I'm not a big one for taking the roof off and having the wind blowing my hair. I just want to feel the steering, feel the gears snapping, feel the engine revving. And of course, there's no big revs. I mean, it's a big V8. And I don't know quite where the red line is, actually. Let's find out. about 6.5, I think that was. Enough, that's for sure. There's all sorts of colours you can have. The red Corvette here, there's about 16 different colours. Some for a bit more money, lots of carbon fibre bits for a bit more money. But basically, you get a car that will put a smile on your face, that's for sure. Unfortunately, as tends to happen on these trips, I now have to interrupt my enjoyment, park this lovely car up so Tom can take some pretty pictures of it. Have you finished yet? Because I've also got to do the obligatory walk around, talking about styling. The only trouble is, I've never been a big styling guru. And it's so much to me, it's, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And what I always say to people is, if you think you had that parked outside your house, it would make the neighbours' curtains twitch, then you're onto a winner. And this would definitely make the neighbours' curtains twitch. But there are some lovely bits, a nice little black bib spoiler, this little grille entrance with a little vane on it, big black mirrors. And this centre section of the roof, which is the bit you can take off on the coupes to put in the boot or the trunk or the rear trunk, that can actually be a see-through tinted glass, so you can have sunshine coming through. But I really love this rear wing. They haven't stuck a horrible, great high-mounted GT3 wing on it, and this actually blends into the bodywork, so I do like that. And the rear's a rear. I mean, it's got, yes, all that. However, I do also have to show you the trunk space, the boot space. That's all part of my job. So I now have to press a couple of buttons. We have one at the front and one at the back. Little buttons. We'll take a look in the rear first. And before I open the rear, you can see into the engine there, like on the Ferrari. You can see the big, in fact, you can see it better. Well, this is the rear trunk. Lots of accommodation there. And these little catches here, the roof, when it comes off, actually clips in to the boot, so you have less capacity to carry things. But look at that engine. I mean, it is a treat. You can feel the heat. Someone's been keeping it warm. But also, there's room at the front. So there's plenty of space to put lots of baggage. And bizarrely, because those American regulations, they've even got the button, the escape button, in case you're trapped in a boot. Americans have to have a button to open it. Mind you, it'd have to be a very small kidnappee to get in this trunk, boot, front trunk. Right, can I get back to driving, please? Good. Oh, I forgot to mention quite a neat little door handle just under there. Bing bong, welcome back, thank you. Right, shall we get going again? Did I forget to tell you? 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. Oh, I so want to get this Corvette out onto a racetrack so I can really push it to its limit. Oh, and just on these roads it feels so planted, but obviously I can't push it right to its limit. Snap it down a gear. Oh, it's so smooth, that's the thing. It's so unruffled by bumps and cambers. It really is a brilliantly sorted chassis. In fact, they're using the same chassis on the race cars as they are on the road cars. It's so torsionally rigid. But it's not just the handling that's impressive. As if I slow down a little bit now and appreciate the quality of the build, that they've really gone right up market. And there's some wonderful touches of leather and bits of carbon fibre. And the seating, I mean, a competition seat, there's a GT1 seat, a GT2 seat, you can pick whatever you want. So I'm sitting really comfortably, and it's a nice place to be. There's a great band of buttons down the middle. But the bottom half of the passenger's temperature and things, and the top half are for me. And And I like the fact there's more buttons and switches. I hate too much this stabbing touchscreen. But it has got a really nice screen for the street map and where we're going. So I like that that's angled towards me, and you're very much sitting in this sort of racing car section as a driver, cocooned, and separated from your partner that's mucking around with a camera while I'm trying to drive and all those sorts of things. It's a lovely place to be. And apart from the revolution of being the first mid-engine Corvette and the first Corvette without a gear lever, it's also the first Corvette that will come in right-hand drive. So when I talked about those European and British prices, they are right-hand drive versions. Oh, sadly our day is all but done, and it's time to head back to the airport and fly home. So how do I sum up this new Chevrolet Corvette Stingray? Well, I do have to admit that as I am just a little bit over that 55-year-old margin, I do miss some aspects of the old boy's toy. I certainly miss that big chunky manual gearbox, and perhaps I slightly miss the wild handling that it had. But I've no doubt the youngsters will be queued up for this Corvette's great leap into the future, because it is a very impressive car. Down a gear, one final blast.